This video is going to look at case studies and content analysis. So on your specification, it just states you need to know about case studies and you need to know about content analysis, with specifically knowing about coding and thematic analysis within content analysis. So they're the key words you need to know on your spec. So if we look at case studies first then. So what is a case study? You should already know this. Even though we didn't cover it in depth in AS, we did look at a number of different case studies. So a case study is an in-depth investigation of a person, group, an event, or a different community. So it could be, for example, a school community. It's an in-depth investigation. And typically when we're doing a case study, we use a variety of different sources of information. So we might have observations, interviews, questionnaires, some psychological testing, a range of different tools are used in order to gather information. And it usually involves simply observing what happens to, or reconstructing a case history of a participant or group of individuals. So it could be both a case study. We could just be observing someone, or we could be recreating the case history of them. So the next kind of question is, what data does it actually produce? And when we're talking about case studies, because there's so many different ways of gathering information, we can get different types of information. So we can get qualitative information from interviews, observations, questionnaires. Remember, this is sort of data that's usually associated with written words. And we can get quantitative data as well. So we might put the participant through some psychological testing that provides us with numerical data. So there's a range of different data that a case study can produce. And again, like everything in your psychology research methods, you need to know strengths, you need to know limitations. So the main strength is that they provide rich, in-depth information, usually qualitative information. And also provides us with an insight for further research, which we'll discuss more in a minute. And it also allows us to investigate things that otherwise would be unethical to investigate. So you think about the case study of Jeannie, for example, in attachment. We would never be able to study the effects of such long-term separation and predation. But that case study has allowed us to investigate the effects of not forming an attachment, how that affects you socially, cognitively, emotionally. It'd be very unethical to conduct that study otherwise. So case studies are often used for something called exploratory research, which helps us generate new ideas. So we come up with a case study, and that allows us to start developing new ideas and new theories. And we can do new testing based on that. And also, it's an important way of showing how theories work in real life. Okay, so we're able to show how a theory can be translated into real life through a particular case study. So now we're going to have a look at the limitations of a case study. So the main one is that we can't generalize, or it's really difficult to generalize the findings to the wider population because it's only done on one or a small group of individuals. And also, when conducting a case study, you may get researcher bias. So the researcher's own subjective feelings might influence the case study. So if you remember back to Little Hands when we did the psychodynamic approach of gender, you've got Freud, who's interpreting these findings and dealing with Little Hand's father, and his own feelings may have actually influenced what he wrote down as the final outcomes. Okay, so researcher bias is a particular limitation of case studies. It's also very difficult to replicate case studies. Using something like the case study of Jeannie, it's a very difficult case study to actually generalize, or to replicate, sorry, because you're not going to be able to repeat those same conditions again. Therefore, these studies may actually lack reliability. And they're also very time consuming. Like we said, you've got to do observations, interviews, questionnaires, psychological testing, which can take an awful long time and can be very draining on the researcher. And also, the information is usually based on retrospective data. So it's asking people to look back at what happened in the past. And there's obviously problems with that. Human memory isn't perfect, it's not 100% accurate, so any information that they do recall might not be fully accurate and give us the full picture. But now we're going to move on to content analysis. We've done a little bit of work on this when we looked at AS, but now we've got to know in depth what it is, what the strengths are, what the limitations are. Remember, keywords, coding, thematic analysis. They're keywords that they could ask you a short question on in your test. So, what is content analysis? Well, content analysis is a way of analysing any data. So it could be data such as text or from newspapers, from TV adverts. And we do this by using coding units. Coding units can be a variety of different things, which we'll go into in this video. And it might include things such as different themes within the text or TV program. And really what it is, in the most basic form, is a way of turning qualitative data, so text or information in a newspaper, into quantitative data, into numbers that we can then apply statistical testing to. So if we look at a few examples of this, when you're doing content analysis, it might involve creating a checklist, creating categories. You would have different examples of behaviours on there, I don't know, aggression, crying. It might involve reading through different diaries or through different reports as you're conducting your content analysis. Counting behaviours, tallying off every single time that behaviour occurs. It might be comparing behaviours before and after daycare to try and see whether daycare makes children more aggressive or not. So, when we talk about coding, remember this is one of the keywords on your spec, we're talking about the fact that some data sets can be very, very large. You might have to trawl through dozens and dozens and dozens pages of an interview, or reams and reams and piles of newspapers in order to try and find something. So what we do is we use categories. We categorize this data into something called meaningful units. So we might count the number of times a word occurs. For example, if we're looking at news reports on mentally ill patients, we might count the number of times they're called crazy or mad and just tally that off in our chart. That would be an example of a coding unit. Okay, the word crazy, the word mad, how many times that occurs. So we're picking out behavior or words that occur regularly. And this provides us with quantitative data because we've got our word crazy, we've got mad, and then we've got how many times that occurred. So we've turned qualitative data into quantitative data. Thematic analysis is another keyword on your specification, and this produces qualitative data now. So whereas coding provided us with numbers, this one provides us with more sort of words. And it identifies themes within the content. So this sometimes can only occur once we've done our coding. So we've looked up words crazy, we've looked up when they're called mad, and then we can sometimes start to do our thematic analysis. So a theme, or when we're looking at thematic, we're talking about themes mainly, okay? And these are ideas that keep popping up. So if we look at the mentally ill example, and we're trying to look at how the mentally ill are represented within newspapers, it might refer to, one of the themes might be, they're a drain on the NHS. Okay, that would be a theme that reoccurs within the different newspaper reports. And themes can be, again, developed into further categories. So we could look at controlling mentally ill patients, or the theme could be how they're treated. So you've got lots of different themes that will occur. It's not just looking at keywords that they're referred to. This is now referring to a theme. So the treatment of mentally ill patients, how they're controlled, whether they're a drain on the NHS. We're trying to put the information from the newspapers into these different themes. So how do we conduct a content analysis? This could be something that you're asked to do in your exam. So firstly, it's really important that you watch the clip or you read the newspaper article or the diary extracts, whatever it is that you've got in front of you. You need to have a quick read of that. And then you start to identify potential categories, keywords, themes, which are emerging from the data. Okay, so once you've had a quick read over it, you make a note of the key themes, keywords that keep reappearing. Then you create your checklist. So you've got your column, you've got the things that you're going to be looking for on there, you created your little tally chart on the other side, and then you watch the film or you read the extract again, and you start to tally off every single time that these occur. Okay, so you're starting to produce quantitative data. We've got our qualitative data, which is reading the newspapers, and we're trying to turn that into quantitative data. So what is the strength of content analysis then? Well, it gets around many ethical issues that occur usually with psychological research. And the main reason for that is that the information that you're going to be using, newspapers, TV adverts, are generally going to be already in the public domain. So you don't have any ethical considerations there. And there's also no issues regarding gaining permission. Because it's in the public domain already, you're able to use that information and analyse it. And another strength is it can provide us with quantitative and qualitative data. So remember, the strength of having quantitative data and those numbers is that we can do statistical testing. We can find out whether there is a significant difference with our data. Okay, and that's a really important thing when we're doing psychological analysis. Is there a significant difference there? And we'll go on to talk about statistical testing in a few videos' time. And also, we can check the reliability. So by creating a coding system, it allows different researchers to compare their data. So I could get 2, 3, 4 different researchers all to conduct the content analysis on the newspapers. And I could check whether the 4 different researchers get similar results. And that will let me know whether the content analysis is reliable or not. Okay. And also, like anything in psychology, we're going to have limitations to a content analysis as well. And the first limitation is that sometimes it can be difficult to decide what categories to include. So you need to be able to make sure that they're all very clear, that there's no overlapping with the categories. For example, you shouldn't have hugging and cuddling. They're 2 very similar things. So if those sort of things are in your checklist, there's going to be some confusion between what people record certain behaviours. Also, sometimes there's a difficulty in maintaining confidentiality. So you need to make sure that names are kept anonymous there. And sometimes they can lack objectivity, especially if you're using more descriptive forms of content analysis, such as thematic analysis. And the researcher might only be recording the things that they want to show. Okay, especially when it's something a bit more descriptive like a theme. If it's just recording the number of words, that's quite easy. But when we're picking out themes, sometimes the researcher can only include those themes he wants to show the results for. Okay, so you need to be aware of the lack of objectivity in content analysis. And also, it reduces the rich qualitative data. Okay, we're only really providing numbers when we talk about, or most of the time we're going to be providing numbers when we're talking about content analysis. So we lose a lot of other information within the text. And sometimes because of that, the wider picture can be lost.